time when the new nation was still finding its shape, when borders drawn by strangers carved through the heartlands of ancient peoples, there lived in the eastern region a village called Nkwo. It was a place where the red earth yielded generous yams, where palm trees stood like sentinels, and where every compound gate bore the itchy marks of free men, the proud scarification that said, "We are Igbo, we belong to ourselves." The village was ruled by a council of elders, but the soul of Nkwo lived in its young people. Among them were 3 friends, bound together since childhood like fingers on a hand. Adana, whose name meant father's daughter, though she had the courage of 10 sons. She could debate the elders and win, could plant faster than the boys, and kept hidden beneath her wrapper a book of poems she wrote by candlelight. Obi, the blacksmith's son, whose hands could shape iron into farming tools or weapons with equal skill. He dreamed of building bridges and schools, of an Igbo land that stood tall among the nations of the world. Chinoso, the quiet one, who kept the old ways. He knew every proverb, every story, every ritual. The elders said he had an old soul, that he carried the ancestors' wisdom in his eyes. The 3 were inseparable until the day the radio brought news that changed everything. It was January in the year 1966 when the first tremors shook the earth. News came of killings in the north, Igbo people murdered in markets, in their homes, on the roads. Then came the soldiers' coup and counter-coup and more killings until the blood flowed like the great rivers. The refugees began arriving in Nkwo, carrying children on their backs, terror in their eyes, and stories that made even the bravest warriors weep. One evening, as smoke rose from cooking fires across the village, the council of elders called an urgent meeting under the ancient Ukwa tree. The entire village gathered, men, women, children, even the nursing mothers. Elder Nwokolo stood, his white wrapper bright in the fading light. Our people are being slaughtered like goats in the northern regions. The Federation has failed us. Our governor speaks of separation, of creating our own nation, Biafra, he calls it, a homeland where Igbo people can live without fear. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some voices rose in agreement, others whispered doubt. But what is the cost of separation? Asked Mama Nguzi, the oldest woman in Nkwo. War has a price that cannot be counted in cowries or pounds. It is counted in the bones of young men, in the tears of mothers, in the empty spaces at the dinner mat. Obi jumped to his feet, his young voice cutting through the uncertainty. What choice do we have, Mama? To stay and be killed, to pretend we are not Igbo. They want to erase us from the earth. Better to fight and die as free people than to live on our knees. Free, Chinoso spoke quietly, but everyone turned to listen. What is freedom without wisdom? Our ancestors teach us, Onukuru, Onuakudebeya. One mouth speaks, another sets it right. Have we spoken to our neighbors? Have we sought other paths? Other paths? Adana's voice shook with rage. I have seen the photographs Chino saw. Bodies in the streets, children with machete wounds. What other path is there when people want you dead simply for existing? The debate raged until darkness fell completely, until the arguments became circles within circles, until finally Elder Nwokolo raised his staff for silence. Each compound must decide for itself. But know this, if war comes, it will test everything we believe about ourselves. It will ask questions for which we have no answers. It will take our children and give back ghosts. Prepare your hearts, for the storm is coming. 3 weeks later, on the 30th of May 1967, the radio crackled with the voice of Colonel Odumegu Ojukwu declaring the Republic of Biafra. The eastern region had cut itself free from Nigeria like a child fleeing a burning house. In Nkwo, some danced in the streets, others wept. Most stood silent, wondering what they had become. Adana found Obi at his father's forge that night, hammering iron with fierce determination. "What are you making?" she asked. "Weapons," he said simply. "If we are to be a nation, we must defend ourselves. And joining the Biafran army tomorrow." Adana's heart clenched. Then Anne coming too. "You, a girl?" Her eyes flashed. "Is this not my fight? Did they not kill Igbo women in the north? Do bullets distinguish between men and women when they fly?" She stepped closer. "I can shoot. I can carry supplies. I can fight. Or did we declare independence only for the men to be free?" Obi stopped hammering and met her gaze. Slowly, he nodded. "We'll go together then." But Chinonso, when they told him, he shook his head. "I cannot." "Cannot?" Obi's voice rose with disbelief. "Your own people are dying and you cannot fight." "I did not say I would not serve. I said I cannot pick up the gun." Chinonso touched his chest, where his offer stick, the sacred symbol of justice, hung on a cord. "My path is different. Someone must remember who we were before the war, so we know who to become after the war. Someone must keep the stories alive." "Stories?" Adana spat the word. "What good are stories against bullets?" Chinonso's eyes were sad but steady. "What good is winning a war if we lose our souls in the fighting? What good is Biafra if all the Igbo values die in the bush? You go and fight with your hands, Adana. I will fight with my memory. We'll see who serves better." They parted in anger that night, the three friends divided like the nation itself, each certain of their path, none knowing where those paths would lead. The Biafran army was a miracle of determination and desperation. Teachers became soldiers, traders became commanders, university students assembled weapons from scraps and dreams. They called themselves the People's Army. And for a time, the world watched in amazement as this small republic pushed back the Nigerian forces. Adana and Obi trained together in a camp outside Enugu. They learned to shoot with rifles that jammed, to march in boots that fell apart, to fight with the fury of people defending their last piece of earth. Adana cut her hair short, bound her breasts flat, and took a boy's name in her unit, Adeze. Most commanders wouldn't accept women soldiers, so she hid in plain sight. Only Obi knew the truth. Their first battle came in August near the northern border. The Nigerian forces advanced with superior weapons, with planes and artillery. The Biafran soldiers fought with rifles, machetes, and pure will. Adana killed her first man that day. He was a young soldier, probably no older than her brother, wearing the green uniform of the Nigerian army. She saw his face for only a moment before she pulled the trigger. Surprise, fear, something almost like recognition. Then he fell, and she vomited in the bush afterwards, her whole body shaking. Obi found her there. "It doesn't get easier," he said quietly, "but it becomes necessary. Remember why we fight." "I'm trying," she whispered, but Chinonso's words keep echoing. "What good is winning if we lose our souls?" "We haven't lost anything yet," but his voice lacked conviction. While Adana and Obi fought in the bush, Chinonso fought his own battle in Nkwo. As the war intensified, as the Nigerian forces began their advance into Biafran territory, the village transformed into a refugee center. Thousands poured in from captured towns, Port Harcourt, Calabar, Onitsha, carrying nothing but the clothes on their backs and stories of horror. Chinonso met them all. He gave them water. He found them shelter, and he listened to their stories, writing each one in notebooks he kept hidden in a secret place. "Why do you write these things?" asked a widow who had lost her husband and 3 sons. "What good will words do when we are all dead?" "Because," Chinonso replied, "if we all die and no one remembers what happened, why it happened, how it happened, then we die twice. First in body, then in memory. I refuse to let our people die twice." He recorded everything: the names of the dead, the villages destroyed, the acts of heroism and moments of cowardice, the laughter of children playing war games in the refugee camps, the songs women sang while grinding cassava into gari, the jokes soldiers told before going to the front. An old priest, Father Okeke, who had fled from Onitsha, watched Chinonso write one evening. "You know what you are doing,
Don't you? You're building a shrine, not of stone or wood, but of words. A shrine to resilience." "Resilience?" Chinonso looked up. "We're losing, Father. The blockade is choking us. Food runs low, medicine is gone, children are starving. Where is the resilience in that?" Father Okeke smiled sadly. "Resilience isn't winning, my son. Resilience is the mother who shares her last handful of gari with her neighbor's child. It's the teacher still teaching students under a tree, even as bombs fall. It's you sitting here with your notebook, refusing to let our story die. The Igbo don't measure resilience in victory. We measure it in continuation. Kachifo. As day breaks, we rise again." By 1968, the war had shifted. The early Biafran victories turned to desperate defense. The Nigerian forces tightened their blockade, cutting off food, medicine, weapons. Starvation began its slow, terrible work. In the trenches outside Owerri, Adanna and Obi fought alongside soldiers who had once been lawyers, doctors, artists. They fought hungry, fought exhausted, fought knowing that even if they won this battle, they were losing the war. One night, during a lull in the fighting, Obi turned to Adanna. "Do you regret it, coming here?" She was quiet for a long moment. "I regret that it was necessary. I regret that the world is built in such a way that we had to choose between death and war. But coming here, fighting?" She shook her head. "No. At least I faced my fate standing up." "Even if we lose?" "Especially if we lose, because then our children will know we did not go quietly. We did not accept extinction. We fought, we mattered, we existed." A shell exploded in the distance, lighting up the night sky. In that brief flash, Obi saw tears on Adanna's face, though her jaw remained set, her rifle ready. "Chinonso was right about one thing," Obi said. "We're losing parts of ourselves out here. I can barely remember the boy who dreamed of building bridges. All I know now is how to destroy." "Then we must survive," Adanna said fiercely. "We must survive so we can remember who we were, so we can become who we were meant to be. That's the fight for identity, Obi. Not just fighting for the right to call ourselves Biafran or Igbo, but fighting to remain human while we do it." Back in Nkwo, Chinonso watched the war creep closer. The Nigerian forces were advancing through the heartland. Refugees stopped coming because there was nowhere left to flee from, nowhere left to flee to. The village faced a terrible choice: stay and face the advancing army or flee deeper into the shrinking Biafran territory. At the final village meeting, Elder Nwokolo, now bent with age and sorrow, addressed the people. "We have endured for 2 years. We have buried our children, eaten our seed yams, sold our last goats. Now the enemy comes to our gate. What shall we do?" Chinonso stood. "We stay." Gasps rippled through the crowd. "Stay?" someone shouted. "So they can kill us?" "They will kill us whether we run or stay," Chinonso replied calmly. "But if we stay in our home. We stay on our land. We stay with our ancestors. And when the soldiers come, they will find Igbo people who did not abandon their birthright. They will find us rooted like the Iroko tree. And if they burn us like firewood, Then let our ashes fertilize the ground for those who come after. But I will not die running. I will die Igbo, in Igbo land, on my father's land." Not everyone stayed. Some fled that night, carrying whatever they could. But many remained, including all the elders, the very old, the sick, and the young children whose parents had already been taken by war or disease. Chinonso spent that final night before the Nigerian army arrived, writing by candlelight, filling his last notebook with everything he could remember, every song, every proverb, every story, every name. He wrote until his hand cramped, until the candle burned low, until the eastern sky began to lighten. He buried his notebooks beneath a metal box beneath the ukwa tree, marking the spot with a stone carved with the Nsibidi symbol for memory. Then he sat with the elders and waited for the dawn, for the soldiers, for whatever came next. Because the fight for identity, he understood now, wasn't just fought with weapons or words. It was fought with presence, with the simple, stubborn act of remaining, of saying, even in silence, "I am here, I am Igbo, you cannot erase me." As the sun rose on that uncertain morning, 3 young people faced their separate fates in the war-torn land. Adanna in the trenches, rifle ready. Obi beside her, iron-willed and iron-weary. Chinonso in the village square, armed only with his memory and his refusal to flee. Each had chosen their path. Each believed they fought for Igbo identity, for survival, for something worth preserving. But the war, indifferent to their choices, ground forward with its own terrible logic, and the question hung in the air unanswered. When the fighting ends, if it ends, who will be left to remember who they were fighting to be? Egbe bere, ugu bere, nkesi benya ebena, nku kwanya. Let the kite perch, let the eagle perch, whichever says the other should not, may its wings break.